Our favorite and the most beautiful Dragon Knight has been added into NTE. We've got Shinku, and honestly, she's one of the best looking ones in the whole game in my opinion. And now that she's been out for a week, it's time to take a look at how she fits into the meta and how good she is as a character right now. There are a lot of common questions and considerations with Shinku, especially something like, is she worth pulling for as a Cosmos main damage dealer when we are able to just get a free A6 Chiz, which is of the same element and same role. Well, today we'll be going through the tier list right now to just check out how the meta is and how Shinku fits into that, and maybe it'll help you out in deciding if you really want to go for her if you haven't pulled for her already. With that said, let's just start. Just real quick before we start, if you're looking for the best deals for top-ups in games like Neverness to Everness, I'd like to share with you the website I usually use, which is Loot Bar. Loot Bar is very direct. They offer the best prices for the same top-ups you'd find in-game. You can see how much you save right beside the price tag here. You can actually save quite a good amount, up to 25% if you register now with my link and use those new user coupons too. What's best for me is how easy it is to set up. Simply click on my link in the description, register an account if you don't have one yet, select any bundles you would like, complete the payment, choose self top up, log into your account. Now this is secured since it is set up as a one-time cloud device, so you don't gotta worry about that. You'll then see your account in-game on the browser, go to the store and click on the bundle you purchased. You'll be able to redeem it right away and voila, you'll have your resources. Then simply log out, your data will be automatically cleared. If you would prefer not to log in, there's even a direct top-up feature where if you bind your email to your game account, you can enjoy direct top-up without logging in even. All the more convenient. I've been using Loot Bar for almost 2 years now and I have had no issues, and they also have thousands of great reviews on Trustpilot. Loot Bar's been around the block. They're also used by multiple other big name creators too, so you have no complaints from me. Just as a side note, Loot Bar also has official CD keys on sale for some really big Steam games like Art Raiders. You get up to 80% off for these keys, so yeah, check it out. If you're interested, click my link in the description and give Loot Bar a shot. It does help me out a ton as well, so I'd appreciate that. To take a look at tier 0 first, this is the meta of the whole game, and there's pretty much no addition to the top tier of NTE right now, except for the solidification of Nanoli in tier 0. She used to have a watch list symbol beside her, but now she's actually confidently in tier 0, and for a reason you might not think it is. Before, Nanoli tend to have been valued as a main damage dealer, mainly being used in a full Blossom team with her Blossom enhancement, along with other characters that could buff Blossom like Zhou and Hotori. While that team is still more than valid, one other reason why Nanoli is now solidified at this tier 0 is because her ability to now be used as more like a secondary damage dealer. If you've watched my Shinku guide, think about the Shinku team that I used. It was Shinku, Hathor, DMC, and Nanoli. And in this team, Nanoli's job is to actually provide her passive enhancement for the Blossom Esper cycle that actually contributes a really good damage output. And secondly, Nanoli herself, thanks to the charge effect and the passive effect from Shinku, that's able to get the energy from charge for the whole team, even off field. Nanoli is able to be really consistent in getting her ultimate as well. So with not only being an anima character with enhancement for the Blossom Esper cycle, when you use her in a charge team, she's able to become a really strong second damage dealer. Where it would just come in, trigger the Blossom. Blossom does a lot of good damage, and because of the charge effects, she can get her ult really consistently, and her ult plus skill are still really good sources of damage. That's one of the top ways to use Nanoli. Not as purely just a main damage dealer of a Blossom team. Her use has more versatility now, and as a second damage dealer or a sub damage dealer if you will, her abilities are really good. Therefore, she solidifies herself at tier 0 currently, and yeah, the first ever limited banner of the game still going strong. Now to take a look at the rest though, we don't see pretty much any change. There's no one that got moved up, no one that got moved down, but I will say a couple of interesting ones though. First of all, the strongest character in the game in my opinion is still Lacrimosa. I'm not sure about the peak damage output that all of these characters could do, but Lacrimosa for her ease of use is just goated. Honestly, it's not even fair. One thing Lacrimosa does really much better in terms of performance is just the nature of her ultimate. Her ult is just one click and all the damage will just explode on the enemy. Characters like Nanoli does have an ult kind of like that, where when you click it, you just do a bunch of damage, but a lot of the rest of her damage that she could do comes from being enhanced right after the ultimate. And as for Chaos, almost all of his damage output will come from being enhanced by the ultimate, and then you have to stand on field with him and then attack, right? The reason why those styles of ultimate isn't exactly the strongest in this game is just because a lot of the times the mobs are going to get scattered, the boss is going to jump around or fly around, and sometimes you might just not hit the enemies with someone like Chaos during the ult duration. And if you don't, you're missing out on a lot of damage output, which is why in my opinion, Lacrimosa is just the strongest character in the game, easily in tier 0. And Chaos, I do think tier 0 or tier 0.5 is fair enough for him. I will say his damage multipliers are really good for sure though. But if you played Chaos before, you know that during his ultimate, sometimes you might just not hit enough enemies, or the enemies get scattered, or you might miss some attacks because the boss is zipping around. But well, I suppose that's also like skill based. If you're skillful enough with angles combos and everything, and you know the patterns of the enemies enough, you can probably maximize the damage to really good extents. So tier 0 is still fair, I would say. Now as for Chiz, a free character at A6, she's considered at tier 0. Honestly, she's being compared to all other characters at A0, so it's not really even fair now, is it? But yeah, one thing you would notice though is the lack of Shinku. A new character that's a limited banner isn't on the top tier, so we'll see why that is later. As for the rest of tier 0, we do see hybrid and support characters where pretty much nothing has changed, nothing went up, nothing went down. And I would say one of the main reasons is just because look at all the limited banners we had so far. They're all damage dealers. It's pretty interesting to see how many damage dealers there are. They released Nanali, they released one Hotori, and right after that it's all damage dealer back to back to back. We've got Lacrimosa, Chaos, and Shinku, all main damage dealers. I suppose Nanali now is not exactly the full main hyper carry damage dealer style of character, but she was still considered that the moment she was released though. But yep, you can see a really lack of release of hybrid and support characters compared to main damage dealers, especially support characters. But yep, it's because of that as well. You're not going to see too much changes with hybrid and supports. The good characters are still there. Nothing much has changed. Now to take a look at tier 0.5, this is where we can start focusing on the new character that got added. We see Shinku in tier 0.5 with a watch list. Now there's a few reasons why Shinku would be considered to be here. I would say one of the biggest reasoning is just because the nature and animations of her attacks as well. You see with Shinku, once you use her ultimate, she does turn into a really enhanced mode where she does a bunch of damage output. However, the animations that she has actually scatters enemies easily, and if you are missing your attacks or if the boss starts zipping around and you can't reach them, Shinku's damage output is definitely way lower. These sort of enhancement types all usually require you to land all your damage, all your attacks, otherwise you're just pretty much directly losing damage. It's not exactly a terrible thing that's unsolvable. You just have to make sure when you ult, you want to make sure the boss is not moving around, or you want to make sure as many enemies are as close to each other as possible, and then you can attack them all. But even then, with Shinku's animation, sometimes she just kicks the enemies, like scatter them. It's hard to focus the damage on hitting everybody. I would say that's one of the main problems with Shinku. And secondly, I would say it's just a reliance of her with charge. You do need to run a charge team for her to reach her full potential, and that potential is pretty good. It's a really strong charge team, but with a combination of her ult sometimes just not be able to land all that damage output because you would scatter the enemies or the boss would start evading. I suppose I can understand why she'd be on the watch list right now and not exactly tier 0. Now I will say though, we all pretty much know for sure Shinku and the coming Aroi is sort of like partners in crime. They're probably going to be using the same team is what I would guess. How good would Aroi be for Shinku and how good Shinku would be because of Aroi? We'll have to wait until release, and you never know, maybe that team would genuinely be insane. But for now though, a watch list symbol for Shinku at tier 0.5 seems fair to me. As I already mentioned, I don't think she's like the meta changing broken character, at least not right now. But when her full teams get released though, maybe that'll change. We'll have to see. Moving on next, we do have the hybrid slot for tier 0.5, which is pretty much the same characters as usual. There's generally not enough release of hybrid characters and supports to make too big of any changes here. I will say Hathor has seen quite an increase in usage though, because of just the amount of Remora teams or charge teams that is recently released. Chaos is able to use Hathor. Shinku's is able to use Hathor as well for the charge team. Hathor's value is actually increasing a lot. Now I'm not sure how good Hathor's about to become, but if there are more and more characters that require or prefer the charge Esper cycle to be created, we might actually see Hathor creeping into tier 0 soon. But for now though, tier 0.5 is still fair. And then of course with Zhuyuan, you're never gonna go wrong with Zhuyuan, at least not right now. She's still reliable. I genuinely really like her gathering abilities. It's just so good. Now to move down to tier 1, honestly nothing much needs to be said here. It's the exact same as before. Again though, the focus will be on the expert tag on Baitang and Daffodil, which is exactly what they are all about. If you're good at them, they have performance that could be higher than tier 1. But if you're just a casual player, you don't like to think about the intricacies though, their performance won't be able to match that of the higher tiers, right? Does not make them bad though. You just gotta be more willful and think about what you're doing with them. Especially Daffodil, really. If you can parry them well, Daffodil's pretty good. Now to move down a tier again, we have tier 1.5. This is where we actually see quite some big changes. First of all is Aurelia. The simple reason why she got an increase in tier based on Privilege at least is just because nothing much has changed with her, but they feel that her ranking is more accurate at tier 1.5. I'll still say it again, I've not used her. I don't find a reason to use her really with a lot of other options that we have in the main damage dealer slot. But well, for a purple character, tier 1.5 seems to be a pretty fair midpoint as a main damage dealer when all of your other peers are just 5-star characters, right? But in any case though, moving on to the hybrid slot, we do see Skia. Now Skia was actually a main damage dealer before, but now he's actually ranked as a hybrid. It is because people has found out a better way to utilize Skia, which is to use the Sakiri arc with Skia and a supportive set on him. So rather than treating him as a main damage dealer, you'll treat him as sort of like a full team buffer with the supportive sets and Sakiri's arc. And one of the reasons why he sees an increase in tier as well is also because of his element. The Lakshana element does see a higher use case now because of a lot of teams that want charge or Remora, at least in the past few versions leading up till Shinku as well. Skia is able to be used with Chaos, Skia is able to be used with Shinku as well, so his value is certainly pretty good. I would say this is fair to see him having an increase in rank for sure. A really good alternative if you don't have, say, Hathor. And to move down to tier 2 and tier 3, we do see Mint, which hasn't seen any changes. She's always there as the poster girl, just staying around tier 2, I suppose. And then we got Edgar, tier 3. Nothing much to say about this guy. It doesn't mean they're bad though, because I would say with Mint, I know some people just use her as the anima character to trigger stuff like Blossom, to trigger stuff like Charge. You could use it as like a lower replacement for sure if you don't have better option. Edgar though is the specific one that I would say is really hard to use because you would usually just use MC. It's just so much easier to like utilize that element. And Edgar, while being able to heal, he's not able to like make it easier for you to kill stuff. So you will tend to find better alternatives. And that is pretty much it for this version's tier list so far. I would say things will certainly change again with Eroi. And yeah, let me know what you think about Shinku. I do still mean what I said with the guide. I do think Shinku's just simply a strong character. Nothing game breaking, nothing meta defining. At least not right now where she's just alone with the older options. If she eventually gets a full team though that is customized to really help herself, then that may change. I would imagine a full team that enhances charge would be incredibly strong when Shinku's standing as the core of that team. But we'll have to wait for more characters being released and see what's up. And yep, that'll be all for now. If you guys enjoyed this one, and good luck with your pulls with Shinku if you're getting her. Take care.